love that you don't have it memorized by now.
Well, I mean, is it just the general intro?
Kind of.
Or did I have like a special one for new reviews or something?
No, I don't think you did.
Oh, I thought there was like something special I was supposed to say that I was gonna. It was very important that I got across. Like,
I don't think so. I think you do the normal, well, hello, welcome to CinemaShock thing.
Well, let me just pull up something and go with, well, hello, and welcome to Fire Shock with me, the Twin Peaks watch-along.
No, you're going to confuse people.
Not that one.
Not that one. Nope.
That's What's not wrong with me? Why can't I do this? How about, well, hello, and welcome to CinemaShock, the show that digs deep into stories behind your favorite cult and genre movies. I'm one of your hosts, Gary Horn.
Hey, I'm co-host Justin Bishop, and we're back this week for another installment for our little bonus series where we review brand new movies that are out in theaters, films chosen by members of CinemaShock Plus, and the film that our members have chosen for us to review in April is the all-new Faces of Death remake. Or maybe remake's not the right word. Or
they killed all new people for this one.
Yeah, well, you can't it's not a remake, it's not a reboot, it's not a reimagining. None of those quite work, and I guess we'll have to talk about why that is here in just a minute. But I'm excited to talk about that one, about this one, Gary, because I didn't know what my expectations for this one were, because it's like, how the fuck do you redo Faces of Death?
Well, yeah, and I literally, I don't know. I don't think I had any expectations for this one going in. I think if I'm being perfectly honest, I didn't care that much going in. Like I knew that it was a movie that existed and it was going to happen, and I knew it was something to do with the old one. I think we talked about, I watched a trailer and I knew it had something to do with somebody's watching the old Faces of Death movie, and that's what I knew going into this.
Well, I remember when they announced it, several years ago at this point, when they announced that they were doing a reimagining of Faces of Death, and I was like, that's a choice. Like, how are they going to do this? Is it going to be like a found footage movie? Is it what direction are they going to go with? And I think the direction they went is actually a pretty fascinating one.
No, I just feel like early up top, I just want to get out of the way that I felt like I gave it like a little bummer of a intro there that I was like, I didn't give a shit. But I will go ahead and put my cards on the table and say, but I fucking loved it. Okay. So I can't wait to talk about it.
Well, good. I'm glad. Yeah. So if you were coming in just hoping for Gary to shit all over this movie, you're out of luck. Before we talk about it, Gary, I want to get into. I want to give a little history lesson about Faces of Death, because it's possible that somebody's listening to this podcast because they were looking for reviews of Faces of Death, and maybe they went to see it. Maybe they walked into a theater and just purchased a ticket to Faces of Death because they'd seen a trailer and it thought it looked like a cool new slasher movie. Or maybe you're listening to this a few months from now and you were browsing Shudder, came across it, read the description, and clicked play without any real context for what Faces of Death is, because it's very possible. It's very possible that you didn't even know there was another movie called Faces of Death that came out nearly 50 years ago, because it's not really in the cultural kind of pop culture lexicon, except among hardcore horror fans at this point, I feel like.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think about, but I've actually watched a few reviews of and listened to about this movie, and there were plenty of them that the people were like, yeah, it's apparently based on this old movie called Faces of Death. I haven't really heard of it or haven't seen it. And I'm like, really? It's for me growing up, I definitely had heard of this movie and sought it out. Yeah.
Well, we're old as fuck. So
yeah, but we're old. Yeah. So here you go.
Well, so let's talk a little bit briefly about the original so that people who aren't aware of it and don't know about its history have some sort of context for what this movie's playing with. So the original Faces of Death, it was written and directed by a guy named John Allen Schwartz, who worked under the pseudonyms, two pseudonyms actually, of Conan Lecellier and Alan Black. And this movie, it was kind of presented or framed as a documentary that was exploring mortality, basically. It was hosted by a pathologist named Dr. Francis B. Gross. essentially it was like the American equivalent of an Italian Mondo movie, which is this subgenre that became popular in the 1960s and 70s. They're basically pseudo documentaries that portrayed foreign cultures while emphasizing taboo subjects like sex and death. They're a lot of them are a little racist and a little like they're very cringy, and they would not fly well with most audiences today. But at the time, it was sort of like in the 60s. This was when there was not as many things were allowed on screen. Even after the Hays Code had collapsed and all that stuff, this is a way to kind of see things that were normally too taboo to put into a movie, but because they were framed as quote unquote documentaries, they were able to kind of get away with it. It's this genre. The genre really started in like the early 60s. I think it was 1962. It's an Italian movie called Mondo Cane, which is where the subgenre kind of got its name. But Faces of Death was sort of an extension of that, but made in America. And it became this legendary piece of exploitation cinema and a staple on video store shelves. Though in a lot of rental stores, a lot of video rental stores, it was sort of a under the counter rental because of how graphic it was. It had like a thing that said banned in 46 countries, and you had to be over 17 or older to rent it. You couldn't just like grab it off the shelf.
I distinctly recall it being on like top shelves always, like in the video store I went to all the time and eventually worked at. Like it was always like up high.
And you weren't going to find it at like Blockbuster or anywhere like that.
Yeah.
It had to be like a mom and pop video store. Like Blockbuster would not carry this because it was unrated, and if it had been rated, it would have definitely been like an X it would have been an X because NC-17 didn't exist quite yet. And for horror fans like me and Gary growing up at the time, it was sort of a rite of passage. This was like the kind of movie that you would rent at a sleepover with your buddies to see who could like make it through it, who could stomach it the whole time, kind of thing. So it was something that every self-respecting horror kid kind of had to sit through if they wanted to feel legit. And me and Gary, we're about the same age, and we both grew up being horror fans. Although I think you started watching the more like adult, like scarier stuff earlier than I did because your mom was a big horror fan. I know you've talked about watching like Halloween when you were very young. And I didn't really start that stuff till I was like probably in my teens because my parents wouldn't let me watch that stuff. So I would, once I was old enough to get my own membership at the video store, I started just renting every horror movie that I could, and that included Faces of Death, which I saw when I was probably like 16 years old, I think. So was this one that you rented back in the day? I know that you saw it in the movie, you saw it in the video stores, but did you ever like rent it and watch it back then?
Oh yeah, I remember distinctly like renting it with friends. Like we made a whole thing about it. Like
it's not a thing you like sit and watch by yourself. That'd be weird.
No, it was definitely like a thing. Like we got it. Like this is I don't know. It's like the first time I saw like a porno magazine or something.
Right.
I think it was just a kind of a similar deal. Like it was like we got the one. We got the this one's legit. Like people are dying in this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was presented as basically like a snuff film. And I saw it with friends as well when I was about that age. And then I actually remember seeing here locally, there was a movie theater that showed Faces of Death 4 on the big screen. It was like a one night only thing. So I had to be like be like 17 in order to get in. But me and my best friend in high school, we went to see it. We went to see Faces of Death 4 in the theater. And I distinctly remember getting a button, like a pin. And I wish I still had it because it'd be awesome. But it says, "I survived Faces of Death." If you sat through the whole movie and you didn't leave before it was over, then they awarded you with an "I survived Faces of Death" button to wear. And I really regret losing that.
Even saying this out loud right now, like to myself, as I hear myself talk, and I talk about like getting together with friends, and we're like, "Oh, this is the one where real people die in it," and all of that. It sounds so fucking psychotic.
It does. It absolutely does.
It was just the idea of seeing something you weren't supposed to see.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. This idea that you were almost like getting away with something. And one of the reasons that the movie was so notorious at the time was because for many years, including like when we saw it, because we saw this like in the 90s, when we saw this, everyone thought it was real. The footage was presented as real, as like an actual documentary. But then over time, it became common knowledge, and this wasn't for like decades after the movie was released, but it eventually became common knowledge, and it is now common knowledge that the film, in reality, it blended some genuine newsreel footage with elaborate special effects. Like there is some real actual footage in this that's genuinely harrowing. There are real autopsies. There's accident footage. There's some like napalm victims. This is all stuff that they pulled from news archives and medical libraries. But a lot of the more disturbing stuff was all completely fake. Like there's one very infamous scene, which actually gets referenced in the new film, very like shown and blatantly referenced in the new film, that shows a monkey being killed and eaten in a restaurant where they like hit him in the head with hammers and they eat his brains. Well, in reality, the brains that you see being eaten are like cauliflower covered in Caro syrup, like theatrical blood. And then there's a human execution in it where a guy gets like electrocuted in an electric chair, and that was all fake, completely staged. So it was kind of a mixture of that kind of stuff. All the like really gruesome stuff though was completely fake, but we didn't know that at the time, and that's why people were seeking it out, because again, it's that idea of I shouldn't be watching this, but yet I just went down to the Pick-a-Flick and they had it on the shelf, so clearly there's nothing like illegal about it, but I still feel like I shouldn't be watching it, and that led to a lot of people watching it. And the movie ended up being like a huge success. It made like $35 million worldwide when it first came out in the late 70s. Which is a lot for a movie that cost like $100 to make or something. Like it did not cost much at all. And its success led to several sequels. I think there were like 6 official Faces of Death movies. There's a couple of non-official sequels. Although I think 5 and 6 just reuse footage from all the old ones and just remix them a little bit. So they're barely sequels, but they were just cashing in on the name at that point. But with that kind of legacy, I guess it's not surprising that Hollywood eventually decided, hey, this is a well-known name. We should try to do something with this. We should try to remake it or reboot it or something, right? But you do always have to wonder, like I said at the top of the show, like, well, how are you going to pull that off? Like, what direction do you go to, quote unquote, remake something that was presented as real footage with no storyline? There's no storyline to Faces of Death. It's literally just one clip after another of horrible footage. The original Faces of Death it's often credited as like a precursor to like the found footage genre. Even though, I mean, technically, I guess Cannibal Holocaust was before this, right? Like a couple of years before this, or maybe a year before this. But Faces of Death is definitely in that camp of like being one of the godfathers of found footage. So you would think, I mean, and also like if you think about the way it was presented, it's marketing, and that's, if Faces of Death is anything, it is a marketing stunt that went incredibly well for the people behind it. But its marketing kind of blurred the line between real and fake in a way that I feel like had to influence the Blair Witch Project, one of the other kind of godfathers of the found footage genre. So it kind of would make sense for somebody to go in that direction to create, to turn this into like a found footage premise. But surprisingly, that's not what happened. That never happened. In 2006, this was originally going to be produced by a company called Rogue Pictures. They were trying to kind of capitalize on the torture porn stuff that was coming out at the time, like ultra gory, which makes sense considering the subject matter of Faces of Death, but that never really happened for one reason or another. And then in 2021, things started moving again, and Legendary Entertainment secured the rights and eventually hired the writing duo of Daniel Goldhaber and Isa Mazet to reimagine the film. And they sort of came on board. I've read a couple of interviews with them, and they sort of came on board because they were intrigued with like the idea of, or the question of, well, how the fuck do you reimagine Faces of Death? So they kind of saw it almost like as a challenge. Like, how are we going to do this?
Well, and that would be a really big challenge, because here's the deep, dark secret about Faces of Death, because I rewatched it sort of before this movie, and it's that it's not good. It's not a very good movie at all.
No,
and
it's not.
I mean, I guess that there are people out there that love this movie, but it's the same thing with like Cannibal Holocaust for me. It's just like it's kind of boring in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it's mostly just killing some animals, and then that makes
both
me
of those
hate
movies.
myself. Yeah, it makes me hate myself watching it. And then it's like, I don't know. It's weird for what the movie is supposed to be. Ultimately, it's just boring. It just
Yeah.
like they're trying to present it as this like documentary style footage, and here's some stuff, and now especially that a lot of it's fake. Even the stuff that is real supposedly is in a way that like you can scroll Instagram and see more real shit than this Gold X, and you can get fucked up quicker than watching Faces of Death.
Well, I mean, that it's interesting you say that, because that's sort of what the filmmakers latched onto, that idea that like we live in a world where, this used to be footage that you could only see in this VHS tape that was on the top shelf of the video store or in the back room of the video store that was banned in 46 countries. Like the only way you could see this footage in 1978 was to go get that video. But now in 2026, just pull out your phone and you can find it anywhere. So that was sort of the challenge that they saw in reimagining Faces of Death for 2026 audiences, was leaning into the idea that this shit is everywhere now if you know where to look. You don't have to go find some forbidden VHS tape to be able to watch it. So I think that like choosing these filmmakers, Goldhaber and Mazzei, to reimagine it was a pretty smart call, because they had previously made a film called Cam, which stars Madeline Brewer as Alice. She's this cam girl who's kind of completely consumed by her ranking on this like cam girl site, freecams.com or whatever it is that she's on. And she'll do anything to climb the leaderboard, including staging her own on-death camera as a stunt in the beginning of the film. And then one day she wakes up to find a doppelganger has taken over her account, broadcasting as her and pushing the content further than she ever would. So if you think about that, well, did you ever see Cam?
Yeah, I saw Cam and I loved it. I saw
great.
it when it first came out, and I had a good time with it. Now, I didn't see a second one, but I did love Cam.
There was a sequel to it?
No. His How to Build what was it?
How to Blow Up a Pipeline?
How to Blow Up a Pipeline.
Oh, yeah. Very different movie. Not a horror movie at all. Very different movie, but very, very good. How to Blow Up a Pipeline is a great kind of thriller. But Cam feels almost like it feels like that's what led them to choose these guys. Well, it had to be, because How to Blow Up a Pipeline came out in 2021, so they probably would not have even seen this at the time.
They would not have. Actually, I was reading that principal photography for this began the same day that How to Blow Up a Pipeline opened. So all that was like already in place.
Yeah, because Faces of Death has been in the can. It's been done for like 2 years at this point. It's had some like legal issues where it switched distributors, and there's been a lot of stuff going on in the last couple of years that has kind of delayed it from coming out.
Yeah, it was it's released in 2026, but the movie itself is set in 2024, which is about when they were making it. And I think they started like 2022, like late 2022.
Well, it's about when it would have originally come out, was 2020.
Yeah, and they chose not to update. I was reading some stuff with them, and they chose not to update the time frame. And one of the choices that they decided to go with that during the making, I read somewhere, was that they also didn't want to get sucked into AI stuff and deal with is it real, is it fake, and all that. They didn't want to have to think about that part of it.
Yeah, that would complicate it even further.
Yeah, and Daniel Goldhaber, Haber, did I say his last name right? I don't remember, but he also I was reading, worked as a content moderator at a social media company for a while. So like he was kind of obsessed with like cycles of media violence and just like it was I don't think what I was reading said what company he worked for, or maybe it's not even like one of the big ones, but it was like a startup at the time. So they had mentioned that he had thought that this would be a great place to initialize a horror movie from at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they've got the background for this stuff between like his background with that job. They also, one interview I read with them mentioned they grew up in Colorado near Columbine and near the place where the Batman, the Dark Knight shooting happened. Like that was all stuff that happened in their backyard. So they've got like this idea of like mass violence and, lone wolf killers and things like that, very ingrained in their history. They, when you think about Cam specifically, because I was thinking about how it relates to what goes on in this movie, it's basically about what happens when the performance becomes like bigger than the person, right? When the audience doesn't care which version of you you're watching, they just want to be fed. It's about the audience just wanting to be fed and you having to escalate to get that, which is basically what Faces of Death has always kind of been about. I don't want to go into too much more about Cam because we're not doing a Cam review, and also I don't want to spoil anything because it goes to some pretty fun places. But seek it out, and you'll see. If you watch that movie, I think you'll see why Legendary tapped these two for this job, because their version of Faces of Death kind of has the same DNA as Cam. I feel like it's deeply concerned with like online identity, and specifically what people will do for that dopamine hit, the like, the comment, the follow. The killer in the film calls it the attention economy, which I thought was a really great line that sort of summed up his entire worldview, just about. So I guess we should tell people what, if they haven't seen the movie yet, because we're not going to spoil anything. If we get to spoilers later on, I guess we'll give you a spoiler warning. But for now, we will not spoil anything major in the film, so you can go in fresh. So if you're listening to this and you want to know, if you're trying to figure out whether or not you should see it, the basic premise of the movie is it's pretty interesting because in this new version of Faces of Death, the original Faces of Death, like you mentioned earlier, I think, Gary, it exists as a film, just like it does in our world. Like this is in the world of this movie, the original 1978 Faces of Death is a video that that people know about. The characters discuss it and its history as like a video nasty, and they know about they know that it's fake, and all this everything that we just talked about. The characters in the film know that.
Yeah, and the killer is exactly who everybody thought would be created from the original Faces of the Death.
Yeah,
they're like, oh, that's the guy. That's the guy that the media was telling you about, and then all of us would become.
The lead character here is Margot, played by Barbie Ferreira, and she works as a content moderator for a social media company. I think it was called Kino, Kino, which is basically like TikTok, but it's not called TikTok.
Yeah, when he was actually having to pick a social media thing, that's another thing I was reading, is like he wasn't sure. Like they were trying to debate on which platform would this mimic, and TikTok is huge now, but I think at the time when they were making that decision, it wasn't as huge, but he felt like TikTok was the one to roll with, which was, good job, because that's what all of them mimic now, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So Margot, her job is to basically like scroll through videos that have been flagged by users and decide what stays up and what gets pulled. And what's interesting about her as a character is that she's not like desensitized to this stuff. Like everyone around her has sort of reduced it to this, just like they don't let it like affect them really. But her boss like doesn't care what's in the videos, only really how they care about how many people are watching. They care about ad revenue and all that shit. But Margot still like feels it. And part of that's because of her background, that she's got a backstory that I don't think we should probably spoil here, but it does. She has a backstory that involves being infamous due to social media while also working on the back end of social media.
Yeah, this is sort of like touchy stuff that, like, I don't know, when I was coming home and telling my wife about it, she was like, don't tell me who the killer is. And I saw even people like on reviews are like, well, sorry, but spoilers, the killer who's played by, and I'm like, all of this stuff is in the first like 15 minutes of the movie. Like,
we're going to talk about who the killer is because the movie never hides who the killer is. Like,
and literally his first scene, you know who the killer is. That's not what this movie is.
Yeah, he's on the poster of the movie.
It's like, the main two people are on the poster. So that's not.
It's Margot and the killer. His name's Arthur.
Is not a Scream movie reveal.
Yeah, no, not at all. So, but Margot at her job she starts noticing a pattern in a series of videos that are being uploaded and flagged. They're under like different usernames, but there are too many similarities for them to be a coincidence. And she's convinced that someone is out there actually killing people using the death scenes from the original Faces of Death as a blueprint. I mean, that's the basic premise, right? I think that about covers it.
Yep, that's it.
So I wanted to ask you, I know you mentioned that you rewatched Faces of Death to prepare for this, which I guess hats off to you because I did not fucking do that.
Well, when I say I rewatched it, I watched about 45 minutes at max. I would guess closer to 30. And I kind of joked about this earlier, but it's like literally the first half hour of that movie is just animals dying. And it's just like, and it's like, not like they're killing the animals. It's like footage they have from like factory farms and like that kind of shit. And so I don't know. I don't know about most people. I only got a stomach for that for so long. Somehow I got, I was working at the same time. So I had it on like one screen while I'm doing other stuff. And I'm like glancing over and I'm like, okay, that's enough of that. And so then I started kind of skipping through it just to see like what could I see? It's like you watch it now, and sorry, I should have said this earlier, but like you get to that scene about the monkey, and it's very clearly fake now. Like you can
now that you know it,
now that you know it. Well, you're also watching it, and you're just like, what a shitty restaurant, and
like, I got to kill my own food.
Well, just the whole setup. It's like there's nobody else here. It's just this table and
just black curtains in the background. It looks like the Hot Ones set.
Yeah, and the server's very awkwardly standing over explaining things in like very deep detail, and it's just this is dumb. But anyway.
I don't you'll probably agree with me or tell me otherwise, but I don't think you have to, if you're coming into the new Faces of Death 2026 version, wondering if you need to watch the original. I'm gonna say I don't think you need to watch the original.
I don't think you do, and I don't think you should. Unless that's just really what you want to do. They literally in this film show you the scenes that you need to know from the original.
I think knowing of the existence of the original movie is going to enhance your overall experience because I think it adds another layer to what the movie is trying to say and how it's trying to use the legacy of the original film as a building block to the story that it's trying to tell. But I don't think you actually need to watch it as long as you know that it exists and know what it is, which if you've listened to this episode this far, then you've got all the context you need to know what Faces of Death is, enough to watch this movie without having actually seen the original Faces of Death. So no, I don't think you need to watch it. In fact, I'm going to agree with Gary. I'm going to say don't watch it. It's a horrible experience.
It just, unless you just want to feel bad about the day.
I part of me thinks that like every like hardcore horror fan needs to have seen Faces of Death at least once. Like you need to like experience it one time because it's like such a legendary piece of the genre, just like Cannibal Holocaust. I think you see it once and I don't need to own it. Vinegar Syndrome recently announced this like fancy, elaborate 4K restoration of Faces of Death that they're putting out. And I think that's cool. I think it's very cool that they're doing that. I think that what they're doing for like film preservation is incredibly important, and so I'm glad that they're doing that. But I don't need to watch this movie in 4K. I don't need to watch it in any format at all. I've seen it a couple of different times, and I think I'm good.
Yeah, that's I'm 100% with you. Glad things are preserved. I don't believe in like canceling out any of the media or whatever, but it's just it's just unless you're sick, then don't watch it.
Unless there's something wrong with you.
Right. Well, and again, it's also it's kind of boring. So
yeah, it's not entertaining in any way whatsoever.
Yeah.
Unlike this movie. So let's get into this movie a little bit more then, because we've kind of given hints of our thoughts on it. But Faces of Death 2026, Gary, what did you think? I mean, you told us you put your cards on the table at the beginning of the episode. You said you loved it. So I would, because we didn't talk about it. Me and Gary went to see this together, as we often do for these new releases. But we kind of like try not to talk about it too much after the movie because I want to know. I want to wait till we're recording to really know your thoughts on it.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. And I didn't know what to expect going into it. It wasn't like I thought I would hate it or anything. I wasn't like excited about it or anything like that. And so I figured it would be a standard slasher. And in a lot of ways, it is a slasher. That's just what it is. But there's some really good stuff in this movie. The more that I think about it, the more I like it. And I think when I left, I wasn't sure exactly how to feel about it. Yeah, I guess that's it. The more I think about it, just in general, the more I love it. Like, I think it does a lot of cool stuff in it and does it really well. And it's a better Scream 7 than Scream 7.
Yeah, well, that's not a high bar to clear, but, yeah, as we were walking out, we were both just kind of like, huh, how about that?
Well, what also is funny to me too is I remember one of the first things I said walking out of the theater was I was like, that movie went harder than I expected it to.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking about it more, and I'm like, I don't think it did. I don't think it was as. I think it does a really good job with the tone and the thriller aspect of it. That it felt like to me that it went harder than it even did on as far as like. For the movie being Faces of Death and what you would expect, I don't think it's as gory and crazy as you would think it is. Like, there's some stuff, don't get me wrong. There is.
Right. Yeah.
There's plenty of violence. It's just that, I don't know, I think it feels like more than what I saw.
Well, yeah, because, okay, I came out of this like you. I didn't quite know what to think of it at first. Like, I didn't not like it. It just, I had to let it stew. And the more I thought about it, I even texted you. I was like, the more I think about this movie, the more I think I like it. I did tell you that much. So you knew that coming into this review. But when you think about the premise of this, the serial killer using the original Faces of Death as an inspiration for his kills, basically, is what's going on here. On paper, that is a torture porn movie waiting to happen. Just gore for gore's sake. Any other filmmaker could have very easily leaned into that concept and just made a gore-filled, just torture porn movie with nothing really to say. Just kind of like using legacy IP as a thin excuse to make another Hostel ripoff. That could have very easily been what Faces of Death was. And that's not what this is at all. I mean, there is gore, like you said. It's not excessive, but it is there. And if that's what you're coming for, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It's not gore, wall to wall, but the moments that you do get gore are pretty good. But I think what surprised me about this and what I couldn't stop thinking about after seeing it was how interested this movie is in the psychology of why someone would do this, rather than the mechanics of how and showing the gore and showing the kills and all this stuff. It's more about like, why would, what brought this killer to this point? And the answer that the film gives you, and this is not, again, not a spoiler, but it's almost embarrassingly simple. This guy just wants attention. I mean, that's what it is.
Well, the crazy part about it too is that, like, I think that is obviously the meta commentary on it, but one thing I loved about this one is that none of it feels overly preachy to me. It doesn't seem to pass judgment too much to me on like anything. I saw some reviews that claimed like it has some finger wagging and like and mostly related to that attention seeking thing. But I'm like, yeah, it is showing you that that's what this guy's about. But you don't know anything else about him. You don't know his history. You don't know anything about his life, really. You just know that that's his thing. But I don't think that the movie at any point ever says, let's see, how do I put this? Everybody in this movie is attention seeking in some way, almost, except the girl that did get a lot of attention.
Right.
And now doesn't want that attention.
Yeah.
And I just don't feel like at any point there's ever, I'm a big, like, I was just writing my letterbox review for Begonia, and one of my things in there, and I gave the movie like 4.5 stars, so don't get me wrong, but I was like, one of the parts I hate is when they get to the point of like, oh, we've got to have a message, and then it's like a very like, you're bad to the earth. Okay, yeah. I get it. Like it's for some reason that takes me out a little bit, almost like time travel does when I feel like somebody's like very on the nose. The more I thought about this one, the more I was like, it never really tells you like one thing's worse than another thing. It just tells you kind of how it is. Like, this is the world we live in.
Yeah, and I also love that, like you said, you don't really get a lot of his background because they could have made him like explicitly like an incel type, like a manosphere incel, type. And they didn't do that. I mean, you could infer that he could be that, but there's nothing really sexual about any of his killings. It doesn't feel like, so that doesn't feel like that's a motivation. Like there are so many like subsets of the kind of lone wolf stereotype that they could have given this guy to even made it to make it more on the nose, and they chose not to do that, and they chose to leave him ambiguous, and his motivations are pretty ambiguous other than he wants attention.
Right.
Because like he says, that's the world we live in, the world of the attention economy. Like he is completely aware that what he's doing is a transaction with the audience. So he's chosen the most extreme currency that he can find, right? Whatever it takes to climb the leaderboard, even if that means murdering people on camera.
Yeah, which is a valid motivation for a serial killer in a slasher movie these days. And
in 2026, yeah, that's like you said, that makes it a better meta commentary on like present day culture than the new Scream movie does. And Scream's always been about meta commentary on entertainment, but this kind of does a better job because it's talking about the entertainment on our phones, which is how most people consume media these days.
Well, and what's even worse for Scream in this instance is like, I mean, I'm not going to get into deep spoilers on Scream 7 if you haven't seen that, but I even feel like the motivations there are pretty similar in a lot of ways to what's going on here.
Yeah.
And this movie does a better job of fleshing that out a little bit, I think. But again, it doesn't like, it's not tisk you about doing that, like because there's another character in the movie who's super famous for just being the popular girl, like
she's an influencer.
Yeah, and it's just like
it doesn't judge her for that at all.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like it's not necessarily judging anybody, it's just saying like this is the attention culture, like you said, like this is the currency that you go by in the world today, and it just, I don't know. It just is. And so like you're in a world with true crime being super popular. Mm-hmm. You're in a world where people are obsessed with these things. And you're in a world where the main character was chasing that, had something happen, is trying to back away from it. And even I think as this movie goes along, you find like you can't even get out of that. That's like you don't even have the choice. Maybe that's a commentary. It's like she doesn't have that option. Like you can't escape that. Like it just is. And you even need it to proceed or for her to achieve what she needs to achieve in the movie. So it's interesting.
Well, and I think that non-judgmental outlook that it has probably stems from Isa Mazet, the co-screenwriter on this, who again co-screen wrote Cam, was a cam girl. Like she wrote that movie based on her own experiences. So she lived that life where you're having to have this transactional relationship with the audience, So if anyone's not going to judge it, it's somebody who's lived it, right?
Right.
So I think that extends to this as well. Now, you mentioned earlier, you called it a slasher movie, and it is in a lot of ways, because there are times even that the killer wears like a creepy mask and stuff, and it's very slasher-esque. But to me, I think it is almost more in conversation with 90s serial killer movies like Seven and Silence of the Lambs. I got a lot of that.
I was about to say that. Yeah. It's a horror movie or a slasher movie in the sense that those movies are slasher movies, they just, it's a serial killer movie. Yeah.
It's a serial killer movie. It's like a 90s serial killer movie updated for 2026 because you've got social media and stuff like that. But some of, I think, the best stretches of the movie are Barbie Ferreira playing Nancy Drew, piecing this all together, putting together the clues for this pattern that she's found out that nobody believes her about, that nobody will listen to her about.
Well, it's another great example of, too, that it's not being judgmental on the technology itself or the existence of it. Like it's she is using it to play Nancy Drew.
Yeah.
And at the
she's
same
using
time,
Reddit. She's like, yeah.
Yeah, and literally at the same, I mean, they talk about Don't Fuck with Cats, which is another movie that you should see, but also shouldn't see.
That's great, though.
But it is great, but it's rough. But, there's literally I thought, a cool moment of a split screen where one person they're both using the technology to hunt.
Yep.
But it's like in a different way. And one's for good, one's for bad. And it's like, it just is. This is what happens.
It's a great moment, that split screen moment, because it's definitely anytime you see a split screen, you got to think of Brian De Palma. But one of the things that Brian De Palma always did great with split screen is sort of juxtaposing things. Like showing it could be showing the same thing from two different points of view, or somehow like utilizing it as more than a gimmick and as an actual storytelling device. And that's what they're doing here, because that is, like you said, it's showing two sides of the same coin, and the best way to do that is to show it simultaneously, and it works really, really well, I think.
Yeah, it's
Very
even
clever.
better that like I think they do a great job of that juxtaposition of like both of these characters are. I won't spoil anything too much, although you'll get it like halfway through. But like, both these characters are famous for the same reasons in a sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're both have death surrounding them, and that's the reason people know them.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and so that's kind of interesting too. I thought, if anything, like maybe there was commentary, like as far as if it was judging anything, which this would go back to the director being a formerly in this job. It's like there is some stuff with her job as a content moderator that it does seem to be like kind of playing with like desensitization there. Like you mentioned that she's not desensitized, but I think that she's not desensitized when it comes to something that looks like somebody dying, but she is. There's something going on with the fact that, like, if you remember, like she's skipping through stuff and flagging and removing items like how to use Narcan,
Yeah.
which
Good. Which,
and
yeah.
like
For drug use. Yeah.
yeah, and for like how to put on a condom. I think that was
Yeah.
one of them. And it's like, these are all things that actually aren't terrible things to be out there.
Yeah.
And she's just kind of like clicking through and just kind of just wiping them out, like
Mm-hmm.
they got flagged and she just flagged it for removal and put in like drug use for Narcan. But that's beneficial information.
Yeah. Yeah. But like the violent stuff, I mean, and she'll flag things for like sexual assault and whatnot. And then, but the violent things, it feels like that's what she's more like not desensitized towards, maybe because of her history, where she starts like it's almost like she looks at them closer, and that's how she starts seeing the patterns that she sees.
Yeah. Well, and maybe she just, I don't know, maybe she's got like a closer connection to that or something. But also there's like a little bit of a side plot with maybe like her being, I don't know how much of this considers spoilers, but like, there's some indication she's taking some stimulants and that kind of thing to get through it. So she's like, there's something there. I don't think I've kind of fleshed it out completely, like on what the deal is with like the desensitization of the moderation. I don't know. I live in a world where I've been flagged for some bullshit on Meta like 3 times and gotten my account like where I can't post, and it's for like dumbass memes. And meanwhile, I can scroll through and see like somebody die, and then it's just like, and so there's definitely something there where I'm just like, moderation's fucked up. It's, or maybe it's even implying that like, the algorithm doesn't care. It's not about morality. It's about retention. And like it's keeping you plugged in. And so like maybe in a sense, the platform's as much of a villain as this serial killer is in some ways.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll shut up.
But I want to talk about the performances. But before I do that, one thing I want to mention is the cinematography in this, because one thing that really struck me about this is how good the movie looks. And I know that's a weird thing to comment on with like a slasher movie or whatever, but a lot of times these, especially movies that are very low budget. I think this movie costs like $7.5 million, and ones that for all intents and purposes are destined for streaming, because this movie immediately, got picked up by Shudder, even though it wasn't produced by Shudder. IFC picked it up and sold it to Shudder for streaming. So it's going to be a Shudder original or Shudder exclusive, whatever they want to call it. But when they made this movie, they knew that it was going to be mostly seen by people on streaming. Anyway, my point is, a lot of these like Shudder exclusive or Shudder originals have this sort of lack of texture. They're overly lit because they're all shot on digital, and it's a budgetary thing. I get it. This movie was shot on 35 millimeter film. and you can tell, you can
Yeah.
feel the texture of the grain, and it makes the setting, which it's set in New Orleans. It was shot in New Orleans, but it's set in these sort of like suburban areas of New Orleans, not like in the very cinematic like
What Jacksonville too.
downtown area, and Jacksonville as well. Yes,
Yeah.
and it makes it look like the killer lives in this cookie cutter sort of McMansion, and that I think that's in the Jacksonville section, right? It made me think of like all the building. It looks like Rancho Rosa from Twin Peaks: The Return. If you're listening to our Twin Peaks: The Return, it's like where every building is beige and looks the same, but there's something deeply unsettling about it because of the way it's shot, and it's because it's got this kind of warm texture that you only get from film, and it makes it honestly scarier and feel more like those 90s serial killer movies that we talked about.
Yeah, that's. I'm glad you brought that up because, well, I'll say first off that I love the cinematography and the soundtrack.
And Isaac Bauman, we should mention the guy who shot the movie.
Yeah, I was about to mention it. Yeah, Isaac Bauman is the guy who did this. I looked him up because I was like, oh, do I know this guy from anywhere?
He did Loki.
Yeah. Hey, he worked on Loki. He worked on Servant, which is on Apple TV, which I also watched. He also worked on this movie called Deliver Us, which is good. He also worked on a show called Teacup, which was also really good. It only lasted one season, then they canceled it. So watch it because it's good, but then also expect to be disappointed. The last episode, but he most recently though, as of right now, he's also the cinematographer on They Will Kill You. So,
which is awesome. Yes. Did you see it?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, dude, it's so good. I loved it.
But yeah, and then the composer is a guy named Gavin Brivik, and they together, like with this movie, like I guess what I was going to get at is that for all the stuff that we're talking about, like meta commentary, and which everybody seems to be obsessed with talking about with this movie, I do feel like they were also just trying to have some fun, and like this movie is very like sleazy grindhouse kind of feel, like when you watch it, and I dig that about it. Like that again goes back to my thing about finger wagging, like where I'm like, they're not trying to do that too much. They are saying something, but they're also trying to just make a fun horror movie.
Yeah, even without all that stuff, it's still just a good serial killer movie. And it does like pay homage to some, classic horror. Like I mentioned Brian De Palma, and nothing that's like really blatant or that's going to take you out. But there's also, I think, a very clever, I would say, if you know the reference, but a very clever reference to the original Maniac in some of the final scenes involving some mannequins and whatnot. So that felt like very Maniac to me. Maybe because I watched that not too long ago that it's in my head, but it's not. Now, this is not as sleazy and grindhousey as Maniac, I'll tell you that.
Well, I'll say at the finale too, like I was talking about how I was like, this went harder than I expected it to. And I was like, well, maybe it didn't, but whatever. But one review I saw was talking about like, you'll be left wishing they had gone a little bit further. And then like in the finale of this movie, I was like, bro, how much further do you want them to go? Like, it's pretty rough at the end.
Yeah.
Like he does some fucked up stuff. There are some deaths in there, like, I don't think they go over the top, I guess is what I'm saying, but they definitely do. Like, this guy is violent and brutal.
Mm-hmm. The last like 20 minutes, the last act of the film, whatever it is, 20, 25 minutes is pretty intense. I mean, for a long stretch of time, it like keeps going, and it's not in a way where it overstays its welcome or anything. I don't mean it keeps going like that. I just mean it just like is an extended, just like, I mean, like what you expect from the final act of a slasher movie. You've got your final girl, you've got your killer, you got the showdown. Like that's where this all leads.
Yeah.
Well, since we're talking about that, let's talk about our lead actress, Barbie Ferreira. What did you think of her? I wasn't super familiar with her before this. I mean, I know who she is. I know she's on Euphoria, but I've never seen that show, so I'm aware of her, but I've never actually watched her in anything.
I thought she did a good job for the most part. I think maybe in the last act, like there's some parts of it where I feel like she's pushing it, or like she's directed to do something that I'm not quite sure that she gets everything that they were going for.
Well, I'm glad you said that because I felt the exact same way. So that makes me feel like I'm not being the bad cop here.
I hate to be mean or sound mean, but that's.
No, I agree, though. I mean, I think she is for the most part, pretty good. I think in the procedural scenes, she's really good. I think she's got a really grounded quality that works really well. I remember the director saying that they had only, like, they chose her after watching, they didn't even like do an audition with her. They watched like 5 minutes of Euphoria and were just kind of sold on her as the type of character that they were trying to write, because she seemed like someone who grew up in like the internet era. She seemed like the kind of person who would have a job at a social media company. You know, she seemed like she was of that generation, and she seemed very natural, and she is. But I think that she's less effective when the movie really shifts gears in the third act and starts kind of asking more of her. There's something about her screen presence in some of those last scenes that doesn't quite land for me. There's something that, like, it seems like she's, I don't know if it's a try too hard thing. There's something about her that doesn't quite work when she has to go like kind of like big at the end.
Right. Yeah.
Is that kind of where
that's exactly how I felt too. Like there's just some like over the top stuff she's asked to do that I just don't think lands quite like they wanted to.
Yeah, it's on the verge of being unintentionally funny a couple moments.
Yeah.
It didn't quite make me laugh, but I was expecting someone else in the theater to laugh during a couple of two specific moments towards the end that I won't say, but there were two specific moments towards the end of the movie where she went just slightly over the line to a point where I expected somebody to laugh at a moment that was clearly not supposed to be funny.
Right. I could see that, because I think I was that person that was almost about to laugh at like some of the parts.
Well, I will say who does work for me completely, beginning to end in this fucking movie, is Dacre Montgomery as Arthur, as the killer.
We have all these current releases. We've been talking a lot about some women, so it's you know, not to be all sexist about it, but it's nice to be able to talk about a king like Dacre Montgomery for a second.
Oh yeah, because men never get any attention.
It's always the women. At least on our podcast, it is. Like we've been like doing all women directed, like
it has been
and everything.
It has been.
I feel okay. Like I guess I'm just saying, I feel pretty good to say like, hey man, this fucking guy he's fantastic.
He is so good in this. Like, if you know Dacre Montgomery, you probably know him from Stranger Things. He played Billy Hargrove on there. He's also in like the Elvis movie. He was in something else recently that I saw. Anyway, he's great. You know, you've probably seen him somewhere. But I'd say most people probably saw him on Stranger Things, and on there he was pretty good. I mean, I don't think that character is the most well written character. I think it's sort of a classic Stephen King bully who is sort of just a one note asshole. At least early on, you know, his character had some growth, but he was good in it. But the role didn't ask a lot of him, other than just like, you got to be a dick. That was sort of his thing.
There's still even there. Like I recently rewatched all of Stranger Things just to complete the final season, and I did find Billy very charismatic. Like something about him was that there's a charisma about this guy that just bleeds off screen, even in a character that's not that rich in what's going on. And for what it's worth, had no idea until Justin told me at the end of the movie that that's who that was. I did not know this was the guy from Stranger Things.
This movie asks a lot more of him than Stranger Things does, and he really delivers, I think. I mean, he is incredibly unsettling. Part of it is because of like his physical look and the physical contrast that he kind of plays with, because when in public, like at his job and when he's talking to other people, he kind of makes himself look like small. He wears this kind of oversized jacket, puts on glasses and like a voice that makes him seem sort of like nebbishy.
Yeah. He's got a real fucked up Clark Kent Superman thing going on.
Yes, he does. That's exactly what it is. He's kind of a guy that he becomes this guy that people would walk right past or just, you know, forget about 5 minutes later. But when he's alone and he's in like killer mode, he wears this like skin colored bodysuit that accentuates his build, and he's fucking jacked. Like he's huge. I didn't know how big he was. I think he's bigger than he was on. I mean, I know he was kind of a jock character on Stranger Things, but I feel like he's bulked up.
Yeah, he's definitely like more muscled up here.
Yeah,
I saw somebody say that they thought he was wearing like a Hulk suit, and I'm like, no, he's not wearing a suit. Like it's just a skin tight thing. Like he's just big.
He's just muscly. Yeah, he's just a big muscly guy. But there's a physicality to his character that makes him seem really threatening. And I don't know. I think it was a great like physical choice for the character because it really kind of like it kind of goes with what the film's saying. You know, this is a guy who knows exactly how to perform for an audience, and he performs differently depending on who he's interacting with, who's watching, whether it's the cops or whether it's someone, you know, just out that he's interacting with out in public on the street, or whether he's interacting with one of his intended victims, in which case he's trying to be intimidating.
He's got great eyes, even though he's wearing like contacts like part of the time. But it's like he just has these, I don't know, his face just, he's got a real good serial killer face. I don't know how else to put it.
No, you're right. He does. He's and you know, I don't throw this around lightly, I don't think, but I think this is kind of a serial killer performance for the ages. Like this is one of those performances that I think people will probably talk about in the scope of his career later on.
I hope so. I hope they don't write this off, because he is definitely going all in on this.
Yeah, he's good. He gives 110% in some of his scenes. Like I just watching it, I was constantly blown away by how scary he made himself. Just physically, like his voice, like screaming, and like I don't know, everything about it. He is fantastic. If the rest of the movie wasn't good, and I think the movie is good, I think he would still be worth watching, even if this were a bad movie.
He shows you how like somebody like Ted Bundy could be scary, you know, like that's who I was thinking of, like just like playing like the weak and sheepish at certain points, but then all of a sudden you're just like this animal that's like I don't know, he's really cool, and they give a good look to, like, I know it's, you know, we talk about more serial killer than slasher, but they do a really great job with like his get up when he goes for the kill too.
Yeah.
Like I think it's like a nice creepy slasher kind of vibe, you know?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then we've got a couple people in the supporting cast that I think we should at least mention. There's Josie Tota. She plays an influencer who gets targeted by Arthur. She's in it a good bit. She's probably one of the bigger supporting roles in it. I wasn't very familiar with her, but she's a former Disney Channel star.
Yeah, she was in that Saved by the Bell remake they did.
She was in the Saved by the Bell reboot. Yeah, I also saw that she's been cast in Mike Flanagan's upcoming Carrie series. Okay. She's playing Tina, which is the character that PJ Souls plays in the Brian De Palma Carrie.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so she's going to be playing that character, which is pretty cool.
In the Saved by the Bell reboot, she was like the cheerleader girl, like the Kelly Kapowski kind of thing.
Nice. So. Yeah, so she's kind of like being seen as an up and coming like slasher scream queen type at this point. So you'll probably see more from her. And then there's Charli XCX, who I was very excited to see was in this movie. I know it's been a big selling point with the marketing because she is Charli XCX, of course. And I love Charli. In fact, when we were leaving the house to go see the movie, I turned to my wife and said, "Hey, are you ready to go see Faces of Death starring Charli XCX?" So I was a little surprised that she's in like 2 scenes in the movie. Like she doesn't really have anything to do. It's really, they're not even like big scenes.
I think unless you're looking for her to be somewhere, like you could even just completely miss her. It's kind of weird.
It's almost distracting because you're like, that's Charli XCX, and she's talking an American accent, which is weird, which is a little unsettling. But then she just doesn't like. She's not a major character who like you would. I thought at least there would be a point where she would like have a big moment or something, just because why else would you cast Charli XCX? But honestly, at the time I was watching this, I didn't realize the time frame on this movie, like when it was made, when it was intended to come out, because if this was supposed to come out in 2024, I mean, Charli XCX has been around for ages, but she really blew up when Brat came out, which was in the summer of 2024. So I guess at the time they would have been filming this movie, she was known, but she wasn't as huge as she is now that the movie's out. So maybe it makes a little more sense when you think about it in that context.
Yeah. Aaron Holiday is the guy who plays the roommate, I believe. And I liked him. He was nice.
I liked him too. Yeah, he's kind of like a horror nerd roommate who gives her the rundown on the history of Faces of Death. And yeah, he's good. I don't know him from anything else, but I liked him. I like the guy who played her boss as well.
Yeah, that's Jermaine Fowler is that actor's name. And yeah, I wanted to mention both of them because both of them have they've got a charisma about them. I like both the actors in that. Yeah. But yeah, I don't really know them.
Yeah, I know Jermaine Fowler was in that Coming to America sequel that came out last year. I think he plays Eddie Murphy's son or something in it, maybe.
I don't want to, I don't want to pass judgment on anybody, but I know that motherfucker ain't no Grateful Dead fan. I know that.
Yeah, yeah. I was a little. feel like they wrote that into the script before they cast him.
All I can figure with that gag, and sorry, spoiler alert, I guess it's not really much of one, but
That's not a spoiler.
just know the Grateful Dead comes up, and all I can think is like, did they just use the Grateful Dead because Faces of Death? And
Yeah,
like they just like I'm drinking a liquid death right now, and I should have mentioned that just because of the movie we're talking about. It's just like that's the only thing I could come up with. I was like, because why is that the act for that guy? Like,
yeah.
I just don't believe that guy is a deadhead.
Nothing about this man reads Deadhead to me. And I listen. I work in the craft beer industry. I know a lot of Deadheads. So,
Yeah.
well, anyway, Gary, do you have any more thoughts on Faces of Death that you want to recommend? Thumbs up, thumbs down. What do you say for our audience who's still on the fence?
I think 100% thumbs up, and I think I'm hoping that it gets a lot of love. I mean, I think it is on like Rotten Tomatoes right now, getting plenty of love and all that stuff. But I want it to do well, and I hope it is considered a huge success because I the more I think about it, like I said, I love it. I think it's well worth seeing, and especially once it's on Shudder, then you might as well just watch it. Because I got home and I told my wife, who had no interest at the time, because she knows Faces of Death, like the original is. So I think that also was off-putting for her too. And when I got home, she was like, "What'd you think?" I was like, "Oh, I liked it. You'll like it. You'll see it. We'll watch it when it comes out." I was like, "You would be into this movie. Like it's really good."
Yeah, so I think go see it. Like, see it in a theater if you can. I don't think it's a movie that like demands to be seen on the big screen, but I think box office for a small independent horror movie like this is always good to contribute to if you can. You're not necessarily doing yourself a disservice if you wait until Shudder. Because it will be playing there probably in a couple of months. I don't think, as of this recording, they've announced an actual release date on Shudder. It might depend on its box office performance, honestly. If it does well, they might keep it out in the theaters longer. But however you see it, I would say see it. It's pretty damn good. It's a pretty smart horror film. It's one of the rare cases where weaponizing an IP legacy actually like means something. Like they actually use the legacy of Faces of Death to the advantage of the film. They didn't just dust off the name to sell tickets. They had a reason for using it, and I think it shows. And like Gary said, they're not beating you over the head with a message or anything. They're not preaching to you. At the end of the day, it's just a fun serial killer movie, a fun horror movie. But it does actually have a brain.
Yeah, it's got a brain, but it's less like trying to preach to you, more like just holding up a mirror to like, hey, this is the world we live in. Like this is what it's like out there. Can we talk about spoilers for just a split second? Because I do want to get into that just so I can pick at some plot holes that people commented on that I keep seeing pop up that I think are bullshit, and then some plot holes that I have for the movie that I hated.
Okay, well, so consider this your spoiler warning. I mean, this is pretty much the end of the episode anyway, so we've given our thoughts on it. But if you've seen the movie and want to stick around for a couple more minutes to hear Gary complain, here we are. Spoilers now.
All right. So I keep seeing these pop up and you're all full of shit. The people that are saying, first of all, they're like, how does this guy keep uploading videos? Well, first of all, they don't flag them to be removed. And they were like, somebody would just track down, like, because the same account's just uploading these like videos. He's not using the same account. He is not.
No, it's very clear that they're different usernames every single time.
Yeah. He's using different accounts to upload a video each time. And I thought that too. I thought it shows you that. Like it's
very clear. I mean, even during when she's doing her like Reddit deep dive, she goes on and clicks on the username and there it shows one video uploaded. And by that point in the movie, that's like the third video he's uploaded. So it's very clear that under that username, he's only done one video. The movie explicitly shows that. People need to pay attention better.
I felt that way too. The another one I saw that I hated was they were like, you mean to tell me this guy's been doing this whole time and he's so great, but then he puts this girl in a cage right next to her old sweater that has a weapon inside of it. How stupid could you be? And I'm like, well, first of all, it is not right next to it. It is just happens that the chair is on the plastic that is like underneath the cages.
Yeah.
And she sees that and pulls it. He does not know that there is a weapon in the sweater because it's disguised as lipstick.
Right.
Like
Which she showed to him a few minutes earlier.
So I'm like, that's not a plot hole. Like that's fine.
Yeah.
And so I hated those, and I saw those multiple times, which is why I bring those up. Now, if you want to talk about a plot hole or something that I had a problem with, like I hated that. Well, simple ones. The cops are fucking dumb.
Yeah, they're bad. They're bad at their jobs.
They're really bad at their jobs. And
I wouldn't say that's a plot hole. I would just say that's not a plot hole necessarily. It's just a easy way to write them away.
Yeah, I guess a plot convenience, which is the same, I would say, with the corporate structure of that company, Kino, and that nurse that she goes to see at one point, because I feel like in both of those places, those people are trained that, like, if somebody says some shit like she's saying, you don't get to write it off because you got to cover your own ass that, like, I escalated this because... Yeah,
the nurse scene did bother me a little bit because I was just like, girl, just like tell her what happened. Like, it's one of those things in horror movies that drives me crazy where it's like if you just wrote the character to do what any normal person would do, which was just like, explain yourself.
Right. Just talk.
Then everything would be better. Like, just explain yourself. Explain to her why there was whatever it was in her system, that whatever drug it was in her system. No, I'm not a drug user. This motherfucker drugged me. Just say that out loud.
Right. Like, say those words.
Whether they believe you or not, at least fucking try.
Yeah. I mean, you can just say it. And I mean, I guarantee you those nurses have training that if somebody says something like some shit like, this guy drugged me and tried to kill me, that they have to at least treat it seriously, even if they think you're full of shit.
Yeah. But in the movie, they use that as an excuse for the nurse to think she was a drug user. So she could use the Narcan, give her the Narcan, which she would use later to sort of use as an antidote to him drugging her. Like, she Narcaned herself first, which I don't know if it works that way. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know.
I don't know that it works that way either. I had that same thought.
I'll accept it, though. I'll accept it. It's clever.
Yeah. Well, my job is... I deal with people that would be addicted to opioids, stuff like that. And like the facilities I deal with, like, have Narcan and stuff like that. So I've heard of Narcan. I'm familiar. I was familiar with Narcan, but my understanding of it is always after
use overdose. After. Yeah.
But yeah, I am not going to pretend to be the expert there. So I just went with it on that one. But if you want to talk about something that did bother me, I was very frustrated during the escape scene. I was so fucking annoyed with how stupid they were during that.
Yeah.
Like, just like where Margot gets out and then tries to get out Josie Tota's character, and then they're both just, I mean, I'll give Josie Tota's character credit that she's just trying to get the fuck out of the house, and I get that Margot is trying to get evidence, but she's taking so goddamn long.
Yeah, just fucking go, girl. Just leave.
Yeah, and doing what? Like, she goes to get the hard drive. She finally ends up just taking the hard drive, which is in my brain the very first thought I had the second she walked in the room. I'm like, just take that fucking external hard drive.
Yeah, that's all you need.
All you need. Just pull it out.
Don't even check to see what's on it. Just grab it.
Why are you watching videos? Why are you taking time to doom scroll right now? Is that meta commentary?
We just can't
I guess
help
that's
ourselves.
how I am. If I open, this is why I try not to open Instagram anymore, because I just end up on it for like 15 minutes without even meaning to. So maybe that's what they're saying. It's like, she's doom scrolling. She got in there and she can't turn away. But I'm like, just take the fucking hard drive and go. And then they don't. And then they go out there and fucking, I don't know why this bothered me so much, but if there's one thing that bothered me more than anything in the movie, that is always the thing I think of, that I have kept thinking about is Craig Montgomery's character, Arthur, is like in the fucking window with a rifle and hunting Josie Tota's character as she's running, like weaving through the fields. Besides the fact that it's right outside of the neighborhood, he's like pinpointing like her locations, like, dodge and weave, and it's a cool scene. Don't get me wrong, it's a cool scene. And then like ends up popping her, and all of a sudden when he goes after Margot, he is like in the back with Margot. Margot's running directly away, and for some reason he can't shoot her.
Yeah.
And I never got that. He like raises the rifle up and he's like, "Oh, I'm so frustrated. She got away." And I was like, "What the fuck? Why did she get away?"
Why did you
It's
become
like
such a bad shooter?
open. Yeah, I was like, it's a plain open field. Like, how can you not shoot her? Like, if you felt confident enough to sit up in a window and like pick off this other girl, like, why is this a hard shot to make?
Yeah.
And anyway, that bothered me. So I'm glad I just was able to release that right now. So if you want to pick on something, which makes it even dumber, by the way, when the cops get there, because then I'm like, the cops are there because he called it in, but I'm like, is anybody else in that neighborhood? Did they not hear gunfire? Were they just like, it's another day in Jacksonville?
That's just Jacksonville for you.
So I'm like, couldn't the cops be at least a little more curious about, like, we also heard that there were gunshots from over here somewhere.
Yeah, from by that house. This has been What Really Grinds My Gears with Gary Horn.
But all that to say, I still really love the movie. So that says something about the movie.
Yeah,
that shit was happening, and I didn't really care that much.
Because at the end, it's those are nitpickies. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's still a really good movie, and those are you can nitpick that stuff about a lot of movies. And I think at a certain point, you have to just give yourself over to the experience of watching the movie and go like, you know what, that's a little convenient, but I don't know how I would have written it otherwise.
Right.
Other than the hard drive thing, I would have just had her get the fuck out of Dodge, and then nothing else would have changed. Just grab the hard drive and just change.
That would have me like I was squirmy in my seat for that one. I was just like, "What the fuck are you doing?
Go on,
get the fuck out of there!"
All right, I think we've talked enough about this movie. Unless you have anything else to talk about for spoilers, are you good?
I won't.
All right.
No, the only other spoiler I had was that fucking guy was not a Grateful Dead fan. So, but I said that.
I don't know if that's a spoiler. All right, so that's it for this bonus episode. As a reminder, these bonus episode reviews are chosen entirely by the members of CinemaShock Plus. So if you want to say in what we watch and what we talk about, you can join for as little as $3 a month. Head to cinemashock.net/plus to sign up, and you can choose what we talk about in May. I don't even know. I haven't even looked at what the options are for May, but we're getting close to summer movie season, so there's going to be a lot of stuff available for us to watch. So if you want to decide what me and Gary are going to subject ourselves to, but yes, if you want to help us pick the next one, we would love to have your input. So just join that. We'll put a poll up usually about mid-month, and then it's up for a week, and then whichever movie gets the most votes wins. And I guess it's a little weird to say right after spending an hour talking about the attention economy and a serial killer who murders people for likes. But please like and subscribe to CinemaShock wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on all the social media stuff at cinemashock.net. We promise we do not have a murder basement in our houses.
I was going to say, if it wasn't clear, that was Justin basically threatening to kill you.
I don't have a basement to torture people in. I got a crawl space.
No murder dungeon. More like a fungin, right?
I think that's it for this one, Gary, unless you have anything else to add.
No, I think I'm good now. I got too hyped up on the spoiler.
He was ready for it. We're going to do that at the end of every episode. Just what annoyed Gary. It's going to be like Peter.
Let Gary bitch for a minute.
He needs to get this out. All right. Well, until next time. Wait. Do you want to tell people where you can be found on the internet?
At This Is Gary Horn on all the things.
And I'm at Justin_Bishop. The show once again is Cinema_Shock. CinemaShock.net for all our episode archives, merch, all that good shit. And until next time,
may the wings of liberty never lose a feather.
And be excellent to each other.